Welcome to Bible Story Time with Pastor Chris. As we get started, I'm going to put some pictures up on the screen. I want you to say, not shout, what you see in each picture. Okay, here's picture number 1. It's pretty easy. If you said the ocean, you're correct. Okay, picture number 2. This one's a little trickier. You may have said a mountain picture or looking out over a mountain, and you'd be partially correct. But this is actually looking out over an extinct volcano. Pretty neat. Okay, picture number 3. Again, this one is pretty simple, but it's a beautiful lake picture, kind of in the mountains there. Now finally, picture 4. Again, a beautiful one, but easy one if you said the mountains. Now, each of these pictures look pretty nice, but they're even more beautiful in person. I've been at each of these locations and took these pictures, or my wife did. And what I would say is that these places are even more beautiful and even majestic than a picture can show to us. At the same time, it's kind of hard to describe places like that you've been, that are beautiful and neat, and to describe them to someone who hasn't been there can be hard. Well, in today's lesson, we're going to see that the disciples kind of struggle with describing something that they experience. But what the disciples experience in today's lesson is way more beautiful and majestic and even glorious than any picture I can share with you. Now, before we get to that part of the story, let me back up just a little bit and tell you what's going on. So Jesus is walking with his disciples, and he asks them, "Who do people say that I am?" And the disciples say that some people think you're John the Baptist, perhaps even John the Baptist raised from the dead, because if you read in the Bible, John the Baptist eventually gets killed because of his faith in God and some of the truthful things he was saying. Some of the people said that Jesus is like Elijah from the Old Testament, or even like another prophet, someone sent from God. Then Jesus turns to the disciples and says, "Who do you say that I am?" And Peter speaks up for the rest of the disciples, and he said, "Jesus, you're the Christ, the Messiah of God." And he was correct. In the Old Testament, we read and God tells us that there was a Savior coming, a Messiah that would save God's people and shepherd them and love them and show them who God was and change their hearts so that they could follow God and listen to him and obey him. And Jesus is that Messiah, and he's of God. We've seen in our last few videos and lessons that Jesus was revealing and showing that he was the very Son of God, that Jesus was and is God. And this is an important statement, because after this, Jesus begins to try to teach the disciples what it means to be the Messiah. He tells them that he's going to suffer and he's even going to die, but then after 3 days, he's going to rise again alive from the grave. And the disciples didn't really understand or get it. Fast forward a few days, and Jesus takes Peter, James, and John with him. And they go up on a mountain. And it says that they go there to pray, that Jesus begins to pray. Now, Peter, James, and John, they try to pray with Jesus, but they fall asleep. Now, I want you to raise your hand. Have you ever fallen asleep at church or at school? I'd have to raise my hand. It's happened before. Well, it even happened to Peter, James, and John. They fall asleep. But when they wake up, everything is different. Even Jesus has changed in a sense. And this is where it gets hard for them to describe what they saw and experienced. It says that Jesus was transfigured, that his face was like trying to look into the sun. His clothes were as white and bright as lightning. Peter doesn't know what to do and what to make of what's happening. And then on top of it, it says they can see Moses and Elijah. both from the Old Testament who had died, but are here, again, probably bright and shining and beautiful, talking with Jesus. And Peter doesn't really know what to say, and so he asked Jesus, should I build a tent, a shelter for you and for Moses and Elijah? And now let me read to you from Matthew chapter 17 what happens next. It says, while he was still speaking, a bright cloud enveloped them, and a voice from the cloud said, this is my Son, whom I love. With him I am well pleased. Listen to him. And the voice was so powerful and majestic. It says that Peter, James, and John fell down on the ground, terrified, probably scared for their life. They had never experienced or seen or heard anything quite like this. But it says as they're on the ground and their eyes are probably closed and maybe they're shaking and they're terrified, Jesus comes over and he touches them. He says, get up. Don't be afraid. And it says when they open their eyes and look around, everything was back to normal. Jesus' face was no longer shining like the sun. Moses and Elijah were gone. You see, on that mountain, the disciples got to see a glimpse of the glory of God and the glory of Jesus. Just a small glimpse of perhaps what Jesus looks like in heaven. And I want to remind you that when Jesus came unto the earth, Jesus had always been God. So before Jesus was born, he was with God in heaven with a glorious, perfect body in a sense. But when Jesus was born, he became a human. And he took on our body and our form. But just for a glimpse, these disciples got to see the true glory of Jesus. And as they walked down the mountain, Jesus told them not to tell anybody what they had seen until the Son of Man was crucified, killed, and then rose again from the grave 3 days later. And the disciples still had a hard time understanding Jesus. And they began to talk to him about Elijah and said, doesn't the Old Testament talk about Elijah coming before the Messiah? And Jesus says, yes, that is true. And Elijah has come. Someone has come before me to prepare the way. And he says that person was going to suffer and was going to die. And the disciples understood that Jesus was speaking about John the Baptist. That he was the prophet like Elijah who came and told people to turn back to God. But like I said, John the Baptist was killed. And then Jesus told his disciples again that just as Elijah, as John the Baptist, suffered and died, so must the Son of Man. And so as we finish this story, I don't really have a question or a challenge for you, but I just want you to think about how beautiful and wonderful and majestic God is and Jesus is. Even if it's hard to think about, it was hard for the disciples to describe it to us. But let's just stop and think about how wonderful God is and how beautiful Jesus is. Better than anything we'll see or experience on this earth is the glory of God, the presence of God, so bright and brilliant that we can't even hardly look at it. In the Old Testament, it says Moses got to be in the presence of God. And it was bright and it was beautiful. And it says when Moses came down from the mountain, even his own face shone and was bright from the glory of God. And he had to cover his face around the other people at first. That's how beautiful and bright and wonderful our God is. And Jesus is. So let's stop and think about that and maybe pray to God and thank him or maybe sing to him. I don't know what it is, but let's stop and remember that God and Jesus are so beautiful and so wonderful, so glorious. Thank you for listening. Have a great week, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Goodbye.